And with this chapter, we begin to see what really turned Getou to Guru within the Jujutsu Kaisen series. That was probably the biggest mystery within this whole flashback, and seeing what exactly, turned him down this darker pathway that has led him to where he is now as one of the primary enemies within the series. So the guy who we see now, it's making so much more sense than how he was, back when this flashback started. I mean, he's so much more vicious because of these events. And at first, it was kind of like the question of whether it was just okay, these unfortunate events take place, and that becomes like turns him into a more villainous character. Is that it? But no, there was a lot more to it, and we found out really how that was at this throughout this chapter. Was chapter 76? Yeah. Well, it's funny. I actually really liked the first page just because that little armory worm just kind of shows up and he's just like, "Hey, what's up?" and Ghetto's just like piece of shit. If you just listened to me earlier, I wouldn't have got all slashed out. But as he is now he's just gonna take the guy. We know he ends up having in volume 0, so it looks like this is how he just retrieves him. He just comes across him and decides to take him in. When he comes into Satoru, who's got Riko's corpse, and he's just carrying her along the way, and here we have Geto just kind of like being a little bit astonished at the state that Satoru is in, because Satoru is all like emotionally just beat. He's all bruised and bloodied. He's just not in a good state, either physically, spiritually, or emotionally. He's just in an all around rough position. He barely recognizes him. And even like when they're talking about it, Satoru just completely blames it on himself. He's saying, it's his fault. He messed up for, getting in that open position with Fushiguro, with old Papagoro himself. And now, like, it's just vicious because he's in this room with all these cultists who are just clapping. They're just happy over what happened. And Satoru is just like, should we kill these guys? Like, we could really, like, I mean, these guys are pretty much an eyesore at this point. They're just happy that Riko died, and they're able to prevent the merging with the star plasma vessel. And with Geto, he's more talking about. He's like, no, there's no real meaning in doing that because none of them are none of them are shaman, none of them are Jujutsu sorcerers. They're just plain people. And at this point now, that the organization, the Time Vessel Association, it's going to pretty much just dissolve at this point. And he's like, there's no real meaning behind this. And Satoru he's like, does there need to be meaning? Do I really need a reason? Can I just do it? And him and Geto just seem to be kind of going back and forth behind that philosophy very briefly. And when he says that, even in this situation, Geto still says it's very important for shamans. It's important to have that kind of that meaning, as he says. And then it's a year later, August 2007, and we have Satoru, Geto, and Shoko just kind of like hanging out. Geto and Shoko end up throwing some items at Satoru, whose infinity just blocks him off, and now he's pretty much, instead of manually using his infinity to block things, he used to do it just like the terminating of their their cursed energy, but now he can do it by things like mass, speed, and shape, and it's automatic. So this is where he steps up from that, like, kind of, oh yeah, I've got like a little force field that can control this, straight up just a little barrier around him at all times to keep objects and abilities and whatnot away from him. And he says he's gonna start to like work on it to undo poison and stuff. So we're finding out idea in his head. So this was actually a really good like progression thing about him, because he used that failure and what he was lacking because of the openings that Papaguro displayed that he had. He's able to progress himself, get stronger, and able to use those weak points in order to really just make himself at the next level. And at the same time, him distancing himself while doing this has really caused a lot of problems, because he's just like talking about how, like, at the same time, he's running like a simultaneous self-recovery reverse technique to keep his brain always fresh, to kind of just always keep him in like a good state, to where his constant exertion of energy isn't going to like mess with his head. He's practicing combining red and blue in order to create hollow purple. His territorial expansion and close range teleportation. This is just those when it kind of like stepped up between being a prodigy and being that pretty much pillar of strength of the Jujutsu Sorcerer City is now. But it's because of that that Getou has become, down this path. Like he's taken all those events that happened a year prior. The fact that Satoru is pretty much just moved far ahead of him. He's become like the strongest one of them, if not the strongest Jujutsu sorcerer. He goes out and just does missions now by himself. He doesn't need a teammate. Shoko doesn't end up really going on dangerous missions ever. It's not really her thing. And so he's just been distancing himself. He's been alone a lot more. And it's just been really starting to bother him. And because of all the like increased events, like he's had a lot more curses to exercise. And he describes it because we know that he can pretty much tame them, but like he can pretty much he turns them into like little balls, eats them, and he explains it as like the taste of consuming a curse. It's like eating a cloth that was like wiped up puke. So it not only is just gross taste, it's a gross texture. It's all around just sounds hard to swallow in general, and you got to keep in mind he's doing this a lot. Like we know, at least in the part of in Volume 0, like he's got over 4,000 curses. So he's done this it, more than 10 times 10 times a day for a year, probably straight if he did this. So like a lot. He's done this a ton, and he's doing something he doesn't like in a dangerous situation, risking himself, doing all this and pushing himself. And why? Because he just remembers all the ungrateful people, all the bad people that they're. It doesn't really matter what he accomplishes; they're going to want their own decisions and their own kind of like convictions. And no matter what he does, they're never going to really kind of have that hope of of his capability that he's trying to put out. It's not like I guess you could kind of like put it in a way like superheroes. You got superheroes, like a lot of people like appreciate them after they do all these things. But at the end of the day, like who are you saving? I mean, in their cases, you have a lot of good people, but this you've got a lot of vile people that Fushiguro really just exposed to Getou, because now he just sees all these issues, all these people, all the fact that like he's told like someone who's strong, they have an obligation to fulfill, they need to do things for the weak, and they have like a higher purpose in order to help them, and he doesn't see it that way. He thinks they're all dumb, like trash monkeys. He thinks they're stupid fucking monkeys. And with that, like we know from both Papa Goro's statement of it, and then following into Volume 0 when he sees Maki, and Getou just calls her like a dirty monkey because she doesn't have any jujutsu ability, she has no cursed energy. He's just the same as Papa Goro was, and we know he does not like people without cursed energy. He's very much like a purist in that sense. He only likes these people who are able to use these powers, and he doesn't want to protect anybody that doesn't have them. He's got his whole business service, but he's not above just like killing somebody that wrongs him in that sense, especially when they are just a normal person. Because we knew that was like one of his weaknesses in Volume 0 is he wouldn't just really abandon his students, his younger jujutsu sorcerers, and because of that, he still cares about them, but he still has this kind of long overarching sense of what he thinks is the way that things should be. That seems to be that the jujutsu sorcerers need to be on top. He's, we already know he's working with the curse users. He's going to bring about, bring back Sukuna. Is it Ryomon Sukuna or Sukuna Ryomon? I think it's Sukuna Ryomon. But bring him back, and Sukuna back alive. Really, like non-cursed users are going to have no chance. They're just going to die off and just run around chaos. And near the end of the chapter, while he's talking to Haibara, and he's just like discussing with him of why is being a shaman enough for him. He's like, yeah, I just like knowing that I can do what I can for other people. And Getou seems a little bit kind of appalled at like the fact that he's able to find joy in helping others just to help others. Like there's like a purpose in there that he needs, because he doesn't, as he saw like when he was talking to Satoru before that little year time skip. Is he says that it's necessary to have meaning. He needs meaning, and helping normal people that don't like appreciate him, don't see anything for him, don't don't really follow any of what he sees as right. He doesn't see the meaning in that, so that's why he's clearly abandoning it. It's more of like an ideals thing for him, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more of this degradation of his sense of justice and ideals, and further becoming what he is now. And interestingly enough, at the end of the chapter shows up the woman who, we saw in Toto's flashback, the same one when he was like a kid, being a rough kid, and she asked him what his favorite type of girl was, and here we have her asking Getou who, what his favorite type of girl is. So this character, she's got to be more than just like a strong person at this point. She's got to be some form of maybe like traveling shaman sorcerer character who's maybe is like a special grade but not listed. Maybe just one of those kind of characters who it's like, yeah, they're really powerful. This is a secret character that tries to keep to themselves, trying to keep off the grid, kind of like that. Definitely gonna be powerful though. I mean, she's gotta at least be high, like a high grade. But I don't know. I'm interested to see how this character goes, because then we're gonna have something that relates over to Toto. And one thing that's very interesting, it was very small let out, is during the moments of Volume 0, if you look when Getou is talking to Satoru in, I think it's Chapter 4, he has like a little short memory while they're confronting each other, and it looks like Toto standing away from Getou. So I'm wondering if maybe Getou and Toto like worked together for a while. Maybe Toto ended up like learning under Getou and then turning away from him and then going to join the Jujutsu sorcerers, because we know he wouldn't kill him even if he like turned his back on him. He's not, doesn't really like killing members that are, he doesn't like killing other sorcerers. We know that already, especially if he's got some form of compassion for them. Now he and Satoru both have that for their own crew, which is nice, which is a good thing for them. They got these big softy leaders, but well, they're soft in terms of they're juniors. In reality, like in a fight, they're both brutal as hell. But anyway, drop a comment below and what you thought about this chapter. I just really love seeing this, slow steep down into the darkness that's Getou descends, and I and twice this long creep. He's step by step until the small light that illuminates who he is completely enveloped in much darker outlook. But on that, comment below and tell me that about the chapter. Appreciate thumbs up the video, from the like button and subscribe button, and check out my other videos. From that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and thank you all for listening. Bye.